Caleb Weston slammed his laptop shut and exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples as the endless emails and financial reports blurred in his mind. He had spent the last 8 years building Weston Enterprises from the ground up, turning a small tech startup into a multi-million-dollar empire. Now, at 30, he had everything: a sleek penthouse in Manhattan, exclusive invitations to the most elite events, and a bank account with more zeros than he could count. And yet, he felt nothing. His phone buzzed on the marble countertop. His assistant's name flashed on the screen. He already knew what she'd say: another meeting, another high-stakes deal, another obligation. He didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed his keys, strode out of his penthouse, and made a decision that would change everything. He was leaving: no emails, no calls, no board meetings. Just him, a duffel bag, and the open road. Caleb drove for hours, escaping the suffocating grip of the city. He didn't have a destination in mind, just the need to breathe. After a while, the towering skyscrapers disappeared, replaced by winding roads, dense forests, and a sky so clear it looked unreal. By the time his gas tank hit empty, he found himself in a place that looked like it had been plucked from another time. A small town nestled between rolling hills and endless trees. No chain restaurants, no luxury hotels, no business tycoons rushing around in tailored suits, just quiet. And then she appeared. Caleb had pulled into the only gas station in town, stepping out of his car to stretch. That's when he saw her standing by an old pickup truck, her dark hair tied back in a loose ponytail, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. She was arguing with the gas pump, smacking the side of it like it had personally offended her. "Come on, you piece of junk," she muttered, kicking the machine. Caleb smirked, stepping closer. "You know, I don't think that's how it works." She turned, her brown eyes locking onto his. For a moment she just stared, as if she was trying to place him. Then she huffed. "Yeah. Well, unless you're a gas pump whisperer, I don't need the advice." Caleb chuckled. He liked her already. "Mind if I take a look?" She crossed her arms, watching him skeptically, but stepped aside. Caleb examined the pump, fiddled with a few knobs, and within seconds, gas started flowing. She blinked. "How did you?" He shrugged. "Lucky guess." She studied him, then tilted her head. "You're not from around here. Is it that obvious?" She smirked. "You have city guy written all over you." Caleb glanced down at his crisp button-down shirt and designer jeans. Okay, maybe she had a point. "I'm Caleb," he said, extending his hand. She hesitated, then shook it. "Mia." The moment their hands touched, something shifted. It was subtle, an undercurrent of energy that neither of them acknowledged, but neither of them could ignore. Mia pulled back first. "Well, thanks for the help, Caleb from the city. Enjoy your stay in the middle of nowhere." She climbed into her truck, revved the engine, and drove off, leaving Caleb watching her taillights disappear down the road. He should have gotten back in his car, found the nearest hotel, and figured out where he'd go next. But instead, he stayed. And for the first time in years, he felt alive. Caleb found himself lingering in the small town longer than he intended. What was supposed to be a brief escape had turned into something else entirely. There was a strange kind of peace here, one he hadn't realized he craved until now. The streets weren't filled with honking cars or people glued to their phones. Instead, there were friendly faces, quiet conversations, and a pace of life that felt real. And then there was Mia. He saw her again the next morning at the town's only cafe. She was behind the counter, pouring coffee for an elderly man who greeted her with a warm smile. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she wore a simple t-shirt and jeans. No designer labels, no pretense, just her. Caleb had intended to grab a coffee and go, but when she spotted him, her lips curved into a smirk. "So the city guy is still here," she said, wiping her hands on a towel. He leaned against the counter. "Guess I am." She raised an eyebrow. "Lost? Maybe." He met her gaze, and something unreadable flickered in her eyes before she turned away. "What can I get you?" she asked, glancing at the menu board. "Surprise me." That got a reaction. She tilted her head, considering him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but if you don't like it, no complaints." A few minutes later, she placed a steaming cup in front of him. He took a cautious sip, and the rich flavors hit his tongue smooth, bold, with just a hint of something sweet. He smiled. "Good?" she asked, watching him carefully. He set the cup down. "Better than anything I've had in the city." She rolled her eyes but couldn't quite hide her smile. "You're just saying that. I don't say things I don't mean." Her expression faltered for half a second before she turned away, busying herself with wiping the counter. Caleb knew that look. A guarded one. She wasn't used to people staying, neither was he. As the days passed, he found himself returning to the cafe more often than he should. Mia was always there, always busy, always moving. But every now and then, she'd pause long enough for them to exchange words, sometimes teasing, sometimes serious. He learned she had grown up in this town, that she had taken over the cafe when her father passed away. She never said it outright, but Caleb could tell it hadn't been easy. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Caleb walked by the cafe and found Mia locking up. She looked up, startled, then relaxed when she saw him. "You really don't have anywhere better to be, huh?" she teased. "Maybe I like it here." She studied him for a moment, then sighed. "Come on," he hesitated. "Where? You'll see." She led him down the quiet streets, past rows of charming houses and open fields, until they reached a small lake surrounded by towering trees. The water reflected the golden hues of the setting sun, casting a glow over everything. Mia sat on the dock, dipping her feet into the cool water. Caleb hesitated before joining her. "This is where I come when I need to think," she admitted. He glanced at her. "And what are you thinking about now?" she exhaled, hugging her knees. "How weird it is that you're here." "You don't fit in this place," he smirked. "I'll take that as a compliment." She shook her head but didn't argue. Instead, she turned to face him fully. "Why are you really here, Caleb?" He could have given her a smooth answer, something vague and non-committal, but for some reason he didn't want to. "I needed to get away," he admitted. "From the city, from work, from everything." She nodded as if she understood. "And what happens when you have to go back?" He didn't have an answer for that. Mia looked away, her fingers brushing against the wooden planks beneath them. "People always leave," she said softly. Something about the way she said it made his chest tighten. "I'm not people," he said. She let out a hollow laugh. "That's what they all say." Caleb wanted to argue, but he didn't. Instead, he just sat there, watching as the last traces of sunlight disappeared behind the trees. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about business deals or stock markets. He was thinking about her. Caleb didn't leave. Days turned into weeks, and somehow, without planning it, he became part of this small town's quiet rhythm. People greeted him on the streets. The cafe regulars no longer eyed him with curiosity, and Mia hadn't kicked him out yet. That was something. He found excuses to be around her. Not that she made it easy. Mia was a fortress, guarded and stubborn, but every now and then the walls cracked. Like when she laughed without meaning to, or when she let him help carry sacks of coffee beans into the cafe, grumbling about how he was too fancy for manual labor, but never actually stopping him. She challenged him in ways no one else ever had. In his world, people either admired or feared him. They never questioned him. Mia, on the other hand, had no problem rolling her eyes at him, calling him out when he was being ridiculous, or his personal favorite pretending not to care when he caught her staring. Tonight was no different. The cafe had closed an hour ago, but Mia was still inside, wiping down the counters. Caleb leaned against the doorway, watching her. "You know, for someone who owns this place, you spend an awful lot of time cleaning it," he mused. She didn't look up. And for someone who doesn't live here, you spend an awful lot of time hanging around." He smirked. "Maybe I like the company." Mia shot him a look, but he didn't miss the way her lips twitched like she was fighting a smile. She sighed, tossing the rag onto the counter. "All right, city boy. If you're going to loiter, make yourself useful." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "You're putting me to work." "You scared?" he laughed. "Not a chance." She handed him a broom. "Prove it." He took it, shaking his head. "You know, I could buy this cafe 10 times over. And yet, here you are, sweeping my floors for free," she shot back. Damn, he liked her. More than he should. As he swept, Mia leaned against the counter, watching him. "You never talk about what you do back in the city." He hesitated. No one here knew who he really was. They thought he was just another guy passing through, and for the first time in his life he liked it that way, but Mia was different. "I run a company," he admitted. She frowned. "What kind of company?" "The kind that makes a lot of money." Mia rolled her eyes. "Wow, that's specific," he smirked. "Tech software development," she considered that. "And you just walked away from it." "Temporarily." She nodded slowly, as if she was trying to piece him together. "So what happens when temporary is over?" He didn't answer. Because the truth was, he didn't know. Mia sighed, pushing off the counter. "Come on." "Where are we going?" She grabbed her keys. "You'll see." Caleb followed her outside, the warm night air settling around them. She led him down the quiet streets until they reached the lake, the same one they'd sat by weeks ago. Mia kicked off her shoes, stepping onto the dock. "You ever been stargazing, city boy?" he chuckled. "Not really." She lay down, staring up at the sky. After a beat, Caleb joined her. The stars stretched endlessly above them, brighter than anything you could see past the city lights. Mia exhaled. "My dad used to bring me here when I was little. He'd say that every star had a story, and if you looked long enough, you'd find your own." Caleb turned his head to look at her. "Did you?" She smiled faintly. "Not yet." Silence fell between them, comfortable and heavy all at once. Then Mia spoke again, her voice softer this time. "You're going to leave." Caleb stiffened. "It's okay," she continued. "I get it. This isn't your world. You don't belong in a place like this." He frowned. "You think I don't belong here?" She turned to face him. "Do you?" He didn't know how to answer that. Mia sighed, sitting up. "I should go." Caleb caught her wrist before she could stand. She froze. "I don't want to leave," he admitted. She swallowed hard. "But you will." He didn't know what to say to that, because she was right. And yet, looking at her now, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath his fingers, the idea of walking away felt impossible. Mia pulled her hand away gently. "Good night, Caleb." She walked off, leaving him lying there staring at the stars. For the first time in his life, he wasn't sure what he wanted. But he was damn sure of one thing. He didn't want to lose her. Caleb had never been the kind of man to hesitate. In business, in life, in everything, he made decisions swiftly and without regret. But now, standing at the edge of the small-town cafe as Mia worked behind the counter, he found himself frozen. 2 weeks had passed since that night at the lake, and nothing had been the same since. Mia had pulled back, her smiles a little less frequent, her teasing remarks a little less sharp. She was bracing herself for the inevitable, for the moment he would drive away and never look back. And maybe she was right too, because this wasn't his world, and yet he couldn't seem to leave it. "Are you just going to stand there, or are you actually going to order something?" Mia's voice cut through his thoughts, pulling him back into the present. Caleb smirked, stepping up to the counter. "That depends." "Are you going to make me sweep the floors again?" She rolled her eyes, but there was something softer in her expression, something she was trying desperately to hide. "Depends." "Are you planning on sticking around?" The question was casual, but he knew better. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Do you want me to?" Her breath hitched for just a second before she turned away, busying herself with the coffee machine. "Your usual?" she asked, ignoring his question entirely. Caleb exhaled, running a hand through his hair. He had spent his entire life negotiating high-stakes deals, maneuvering past ruthless competitors. And yet this woman, this small-town cafe owner, was the one person he couldn't seem to figure out. And maybe that's why he couldn't walk away. That night, the town held its annual summer festival, a small but lively event with string lights draped across the streets, music playing from a local band, and the smell of homemade food filling the air. Caleb hadn't planned on going, but when he heard Mia would be there, he found himself wandering toward the town square. He spotted her instantly. She was standing near a booth, laughing with a group of people, her dark hair catching the glow of the lanterns above. She looked happy, free. And for the first time, Caleb wondered if he had the right to disrupt that. Before he could turn away, Mia's gaze met his. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, slowly, she excused herself from her group and walked toward him. "You clean up nice," she teased, eyeing his dark jeans and button-up shirt. He smirked. "I try." A beat of silence stretched between them before Mia crossed her arms. "You don't have to be here, you know." Caleb tilted his head. "And if I want to be," she sighed, glancing around at the people dancing and laughing around them. "This isn't your world, Caleb." "No," he admitted. "But you are." Mia's lips parted, her eyes searching his. "Don't say things you don't mean," she whispered. "I don't," he said firmly. She swallowed hard, looking away. "You're leaving soon." It wasn't a question. Caleb hesitated. "Mia, it's okay." Her voice wavered slightly, but she forced a smile. "I knew it from the start," he exhaled sharply. "You think I want to leave you?" "I think you have a life waiting for you out there," she said softly. "And I'm not going to be the reason you throw it away." He stepped closer, his fingers grazing hers. "What if I don't care about that life anymore?" Mia shook her head, pulling away. "Don't do this, Caleb." But he wasn't backing down, not this time. "Come with me," he said suddenly. She froze. "What?" "Come with me," he repeated. "To New York, to wherever you want, just—" "Don't let this end." Mia stared at him, her eyes wide and unguarded for the first time, but then, slowly, she shook her head. "This is my home," she whispered. "I can't leave it." Caleb felt something crack inside him. He had spent his entire life believing there was nothing he couldn't have if he wanted it badly enough. But now, standing here, looking at the woman he had fallen for against all logic, he realized she wasn't something to win. She was someone to love, and love meant letting her go. The festival lights blurred as he stepped back, nodding once. He didn't say goodbye, he couldn't. He just turned and walked away. The city felt different when he returned. The moment he stepped back into his penthouse, the air felt colder, the walls too white, the silence too loud. His assistant had been thrilled, his investors relieved. Everything was exactly as he had left it, except for him. He threw himself back into work, into meetings and deals and endless phone calls, but none of it filled the void Mia had left. Weeks passed, and yet every time he closed his eyes, all he saw was her. And then, one evening, as he sat in his office staring blankly at his laptop, his phone buzzed. A text from Mia. "Come outside." His heart slammed against his ribs. Without thinking, he stood, grabbing his jacket and rushing out of his office. When he stepped onto the city sidewalk, he saw her, Mia. Standing there in the middle of Manhattan, her arms crossed, her hair slightly windswept, looking just as stubborn and beautiful as ever. For a moment, he could only stare. "What are you doing here?" she exhaled, stepping closer. "I don't know," she admitted. I couldn't stop thinking about you." He swallowed hard. "Mia, I'm not saying I can leave my home," she interrupted. "But I don't want to lose you either." Caleb's chest tightened. "What are you saying?" She hesitated, then met his gaze. "I'm saying, maybe we can figure this out, together." Silence stretched between them. Then, without another word, Caleb closed the distance between them, cupping her face and kissing her like a man who had been drowning and finally found air. And for the first time in his life, he knew exactly where he belonged. With her. Caleb held Mia close, the city lights casting a soft glow around them as the noise of Manhattan faded into the background. For the first time since he'd returned, he felt like he could breathe again. She was here, she had chosen to come to him, but what did that mean? Slowly, he pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "You came all this way," he murmured. "Are you sure?" Mia let out a soft, shaky laugh. "I don't know if I've ever been sure of anything in my life," she admitted. "But I know I couldn't let you be just a memory." His hands tightened on her waist as his heart pounded in his chest. "You never would have been just a memory," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I tried, Mia. I tried to forget, tried to go back to my life and pretend like you weren't in every damn thought I had." She swallowed hard, her fingers curling into the fabric of his jacket. "So what do we do now?" Caleb exhaled, stepping back just enough to take her hand. "We figure it out," he said. "Together." He led her away from the busy sidewalk, guiding her toward the sleek black car parked at the curb. His driver opened the door without question, and Mia slid in beside him. The city blurred past as they drove through Manhattan, the weight of everything unsaid settling between them. Finally, Caleb broke the silence. "Where are you staying?" Mia hesitated. "I didn't really plan that far ahead." His lips twitched. "So you just hopped on a train and hoped for the best," she huffed. "I didn't hop on a train, I took a flight." Caleb smirked. "Even better." Mia rolled her eyes, but he could see the nervous energy in the way she fidgeted with the hem of her sweater. He reached over, covering her hands with his. "Stay with me," he said quietly, her breath caught. "Caleb, no pressure," he added quickly. I don't want you in some overpriced hotel when you could be with me." She studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Okay." Relief flooded through him. When they arrived at his penthouse, Mia stepped inside and let out a low whistle. "Yeah, this is exactly what I expected." Caleb arched a brow. "And what's that supposed to mean?" She turned to face him, arms crossed. "It means you live like a king," he smirked. "I prefer emperor." Mia laughed, shaking her head. "Of course you do." He watched as she wandered toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, taking in the breathtaking view of the city skyline. Her reflection was illuminated in the glass, and in that moment, with the lights of New York flickering behind her, she had never looked more beautiful. Slowly he approached, stopping just behind her. "You could stay," he murmured. "Not just for tonight." Mia's breath hitched. "Caleb, I'm not asking you to give up your life," he promised. "I know how much your home means to you, but what if we made this work? What if you visited when you could, and I came to you when I needed to breathe?" She turned to face him, her eyes searching his. "Do you really think we can do that?" His hands came up to cup her face, his thumbs brushing against her cheekbones. "I think I'd rather try and fail than never try at all." Mia exhaled shakily, leaning into his touch. "You make it sound so simple," he smiled softly. "That's because it is. When you love someone, you find a way." Her eyes widened, her lips parting in surprise. "Caleb, I love you, Mia." The words came out without hesitation, without doubt, because they were true. Mia sucked in a sharp breath, her fingers curling around his wrists. You do," he let out a low laugh. "Yeah, I do." For a moment she was utterly still. Then slowly a smile broke across her lips, soft and breathtaking. "I love you too." Caleb didn't wait. He kissed her, pouring everything he felt into the press of his lips against hers. And this time, when she kissed him back, there was no hesitation, no fear, just them. Together. The next morning, Mia woke to the smell of coffee and something warm draped over her shoulders. She blinked, sitting up in the massive bed, and found Caleb standing by the window, a cup in hand, watching the city wake beneath them. "You're staring," she mumbled, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. He turned, smirking. "Can you blame me?" she groaned, flopping back onto the pillows. Too early for charm, Weston, he chuckled, setting the coffee on the nightstand before sitting beside her. I made breakfast, Mia peeked up at him. You made breakfast? His lips twitched. Okay, fine, I ordered breakfast. But it's the thought that counts. She laughed, sitting up and leaning against his shoulder. You know, this is kind of unfair, he arched a brow. How so? She gestured around. You're giving me luxury, city views, and coffee delivered to my bedside. How am I supposed to go back to my tiny little town after this? Caleb's hand slid around her waist, pulling her closer. Then don't, Mia sighed, tilting her head to look at him. You know I can't stay, he nodded slowly. I know. But that doesn't mean we can't make this work. She studied him, searching for any sign of doubt, but there was none, and for the first time she let herself believe it. Maybe love wasn't about fitting neatly into each other's worlds. Maybe it was about creating a new one, together.